Okay guys, what I wanted to talk to you about today is the Russian Premium Tier 3 light tank, the T-127. Now, as you can see by my thumbnail, I call this thing the Seal Clubber, and that's because basically that's what it is. If you have any skill at all in this game, and at Tier 3, let's admit it, you don't need much, you are going to be able to dominate your opponents in Tier 3 matchups. You'll even do really well in Tier 4 matchups, but in Tier 3 you should just absolutely dominate. The reason for that is because of the T-127's really superior armor. Just take a look at it. Look at the angling on this front. It has 40 millimeters of front armor. And I'm going to show you in a second in the tank comparison how that compares to a lot of the other premiums and some of its peers in Tier 3. But at the end of the day, this thing has just awesome armor given the types of guns it's going to be facing. So let's talk about the way I think you should play this and how we think you should outfit it. So vents right off the bat, just to add 5 to all your crew skills. I also put a spall liner because at Tier 3 you can't load like rammers and things like that, but this actually will protect your crew, and it'll also protect you from artillery. And at Tier 3 a lot of people run around with artillery and use them like TD, so it's really good to be able to have a spall liner. And then the other thing I use is binoculars. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that in game, but binoculars are basically to give you a spotting advantage. At Tier 3 a lot of players do not have good spotting. A lot of tanks don't have good spotting. So as you can see, I pretty much maxed out my spotting with brothers in arms and the binoculars. So I also tend to use combat rations. So these things together are going to give you a huge advantage for spotting your enemies, helping your allies, and for also surviving. And so really at Tier 3 a lot of people are just kind of, let's face it, they're just kind of running into the meat grinder. So this tank is really good for taking advantage of that, mainly because of its frontal armor and its excellent rate of fire. It does not have great penetration. I mean, it's Tier 3, so you don't need a ton of penetration. But I load up a ton of APCR. This thing has a super fast rate of fire. So, having basically decent penetration with the APCR cells, it'll really be good for you. So, again, let's compare to some of the other tanks in the game here. So, I got here at the end that the T-127 as I have it configured, and you'll see right off the bat down here in the hull armor, the best competitor it's got is 36, and that's at the Panzer S-35. Otherwise, the 40 millimeters of hull armor here are just superior, and that's really going to help you survive, especially against like the light caliber machine gun types that you'll face at Tier 3 and Tier 2. This thing just bounces shells, and again, you'll see that in the game. With my upped crew skills and the combat rations, you can see that I've actually got a pretty decent rate of fire here, much faster than almost any of the other tanks. Even its natural rate of fire is pretty good. So basically that's all I wanted to tell you about this tank, just kind of showing you that it's really got good hull armor, a good rate of fire, not the best alpha damage, but in Tier 3 you really don't need a lot of alpha damage. So let's go ahead and get into the game. Okay, so here we are in the battle with the T-127. I'm going to go ahead and speed it up here a little bit just to get into the action. So the main thing that's really good about this tank is it's a light tank, but because it's a Tier 3 tank and it does get preferred matchmaking, it never sees anything higher than a Tier 4. And it has really good armor and really good DPM. So basically you kind of want to drive this thing almost as like a heavy / medium in these Tier 3 matchups. Now in this particular matchup, it's a really favorable matchup, so as you can see, I'm one of the highest tier tanks in the game. The other team has twice as many Tier 3 tanks as we do, but I'm going to go ahead and start taking some shots here. So as you can see right off the bat, I'm getting some pretty good shots in, and the best thing again about this tank is it has really good frontal armor. And it has an excellent rate of fire. As you can see, I'm just tearing these tanks apart. Now the bad thing about this tank is it has terrible penetration. So as you can see here, I'm just trying to take shots at this other tank, and he's hiding behind the carcass of one of his dead allies. So I'm seeing if I can get underneath the other tank, and I just can't. And even when I do shoot at the other, when he gets around the side there, I'm still just tracking him, and I'm not able to get any penetrating shots. So I'm going to go ahead and load up premium and try to move around here. Now as you can see, even with my front armor facing this guy, I'm just not afraid of taking too much damage. And again, the excellent rate of fire, I'm just able to tear this guy apart, and there's nothing he can do about it. Now he's getting tracked, and this is perma-tracking and just destroying your enemies is what this tank is all about. You're going to see also here that I do take a shot from this BT-7, which is one of the tanks that can penetrate you in these types of matchups. But again, my rate of fire is as good as his, and our damage is similar too. So you really just can afford to be super aggressive with this tank. The other thing is, because it's a premium tank, it makes really good money. So going with our theme of if you've got money but not a lot of time, this is an excellent tank for the lower tiers to use. In this particular battle, we're gonna big surprise here. We're not going to be able to pull this one off. As you can see, they're already pretty far ahead of us. I'm going to take some shots here and just try to take out the artillery and the guys that are protecting the base. Here, I actually shoot one of my allies because he's silly and he tries to go up and ram the other guy. There's just no need for that at this particular stage of the game. You're not going to get any extra points for ramming, and it's just going to cause damage to his vehicle, and plus you're getting in the way of people that are trying to take shots like me. So don't get up close and personal. When you're already in close range, you don't need to get any closer than that. As long as you're in maximum penetration range for your ammunition, that's as close as you usually need to get, unless you're trying to use your enemy for a shield or something. Now, one of the plays I make here, which I'm really kind of wondering if I did the right thing, because what's going to happen is I'm counting on my HMC at the base to be able to guard and do the right thing while I go out and take out these other tanks, but unfortunately he just doesn't do a good job. Now here's one of the strengths of this tank. As you can see, against these tier 2 autoloader tanks, it just bounces shells left and right. In fact, you will get a ton of cool-headed and those kinds of awards for defensive awards with this tank, just because it just does such a good job of deflecting those lower caliber machine gun type shots from these lower caliber guns. Now, I did lose my guy down at the base, and so he wasn't able to get a good, be able to hold their enemy off with the resets. And I'm also getting shot in the back. As you can see, I'm deflecting those shots as well from the M2. So, again, this tank is excellent at defending against equal and lower tier tanks, especially the lower caliber guns. So, take this guy out, and now it's just a question of, do I take out this guy that's near me, this M2, which I decide to do this because I don't want him shooting me in the back. I take care of him quickly, and now I'm just hoping that I can get into to do the reset in time. I think one of the biggest mistakes I make here is I see an artillery or a TD or whatever's over there, and I try to take some shots at it from back here, and what I should have done is I should have just moved forward. And again, I just keep missing because I'm shooting into a carcass of another tank, and he's hiding below the firing arc. And so what I should have done here is just moved forward, realizing that I was running out of time. But that's my fault. I screwed up. But this is an excellent example of how great a job this tank does when it's matched up against equal and lower tiered opponents. So here's the end game stats. Master Tanker in a loss. The reason that you get the higher experience when you have one of these medals like Top Gun, you automatically get the same experience as you would as if you had won the game. So even though it was a loss, I was able to get the Master Tanker. So I got 659, but actually it got up into 1,000 because you get the bonus for whatever so I think it shows up as like whatever's the bonus here. Yeah, so you see I got 398, almost 400 bonus for the achievement there. So anyways, that's the end of this game. Master Tanker, again, we probably could have won if I was playing a little bit smarter. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys another replay here real quick. This one I wanted to show you because it's another one where the T-127 is in a pretty favorable matchup, although there's more tier 3 tanks here. But what I wanted to show you in this one is that for the first half of this game, I've been using nothing but standard shells, and you can do very well with this tank just because of that. Again, the excellent rate of fire. One of the things you also might be asking is, well, why am I using binoculars on this tank? Well, the main reason is because low-tier tanks in general don't have very good view range, but you can basically abuse view range with this tank, because if you have a fully trained crew plus binoculars, you're going to be able to out view range and snipe people that don't even know you're there. Again, one of the things that you want to be able to do if you have money is use these premium tanks and load up on the premium consumables like I have here. I always run food in this one, and it allows me just to get a ridiculous rate of fire. Again, you're almost basically an auto loader at this point. You don't do a lot of alpha damage, but you certainly have more than enough damage per minute to take out just about any tank you're going to face at tier 4 or below. And because again this is a premium tank, you're never going to see anything higher than that unless you're platooning with somebody in like tier 5 or something. But the thing that I really want to stress here is that you have to play this tank aggressively. You need to use your speed, you need to use your armor, and you need to use your rate of fire to push forward. So I'm going to go ahead and take these guys out here. Now, again, you can snapshot really well with this tank. It's got the gun dispersion isn't great, but at this point I'm going to also open up with the premium ammunition, because I know I'm going to be facing some of their higher tier tanks, and because we're outnumbered now, I want to make sure I can one-shot these guys. I don't have to worry about getting bounces or whatnot. But again, you need to really play this tank aggressively. Now that doesn't mean play it unintelligently. That just means make sure you're using your speed to get into position and your armor against the equal or lower tier tanks that are easy for you to match up against and get the shots off on. Now, the one weakness to this tank are like tanks firing HE or the large caliber TDs and or artillery. So those are the things you want to look out for. Just kind of steer away from those, and you won't have any issues. Now, we get kind of luckier in this game, because at this point I'm thinking, well, this game's over. They're going to cap. Now, for whatever reason, they're sick. One of their tanks leaves the cap circle, and I don't know what happens. So, anyways, now I go ahead and get a shot off, and that goes ahead and resets everything. Now I'm just going to start pushing forward, hoping that I can get these guys taken care of before they cap us out. Get some good shots in. Again, here's the tank just deflecting shot after shot after shot against these tier 10 machine gun tanks. So right here I get really lucky and set this guy on fire and one-shot him, because one more shot and I would have been done myself. So I think this is it for me in this battle. I'm going to go ahead and speed it up, because I believe our artillery takes out this last guy, if I'm not mistaken. But again, in both of these battles you can see I was able to take out a significant number of the enemies just with my rate of fire and my armor. So yeah, here we go. I'm going to try to get the last kill. No, so here's the end game stats, and for my 9 kills I was only able to get a first class tanker, but I did get a whopping 8,854 experience for a 5x experience weekend, so that's pretty awesome. At the end of the day, guys, this is just an awesome tank, so I highly recommend you get it. It's only 850 gold, less than that if you get a discount. I think it's $6.50 or something like that if you pay cash for it. Well worth it. A lot of fun at tier 3. Great for training up for the light tanks that are coming up for tier 10. So if you want to get one of those tier 10 Soviet light tanks, this is a great crew trainer. It does have 4 crew members, so I highly recommend you get this. It's a lot of fun. You will have a great time seal clubbing your opponents at tier 3. So thanks, guys, and I'll see you next time.